So, everyone, welcome to the launch for Paul Genega's Outtakes, new and selected poems. Thank you all for making the time and effort to be here today. And for going out of for very much going out of the way, but we know it's love. It's not going out of the way, it is the way, right? So many folks who are responsible for putting this together. I want to give special shout outs to Beth and Patty. Yeah, and we will be hearing from Patricia and Beth and so many other folks who are responsible for and who have roles in the reading today, because we will have many of Paul's poems being read by some of his most beloved people, and we are asking that performers keep it to performing the poem, and then afterwards we will have a space and a time and a place for folks to say special words, special messages to Paul, just in the interest of trying to stay, as we were so wonderfully reminded, we're going to stay on task, we're going to stay on track. But yeah, so there's a wonderful lineup of poets to come, and I am honored to be first amongst them in reading a poem of
He's got one of those things in his nose.
Oh,
Yeah.
folks. Okay, I'm gonna mute all. That would be lovely.
Doesn't look familiar to me. But I know I've seen him. Oh, wait a second.
Great power to have. Great power.
What are you doing?
What is happening?
Here we are.
Oh, we can still hear you. So.
Yes, I know you all can hear me, but this is, again, we really love.
I can't get on, probably because you're on.
No, I'm not on via Wi-Fi, but I'll come down.
Oh.
Not on by Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I bought it. No, I'll come down. I'm coming down.
Okay, now we have all muted. We love that. The love continues to trickle in. Folks continue to trickle in. All right. Okay. Right. So, y'all, without any further ado, I am honored to kick off the readers list of Paul's poems. So this is the one I am going to read for you all today. It's called In Dark Days. In dark days, in days of rain and mud, I have gone looking for my village. Ribbed prairies I have crossed, clouded mountains I have climbed, looking for my village around tables of talk, passionate, polite amongst those who write poetry, who hate greed, who hate to watch the hawk soar, who make love in the manner I make love. I've gone looking for my village in the dusty halls of educators, in the palaces of curios, in the neon buzz of now, in malodorous smoke, in paranoid power, in amber tumbler glass, in theater, in politics, in the gloaming by the sea, back in the housing tract where I was a boy, in all the places since my life has been my own. I have sought. I am seeking. All right. So yes, y'all, that is a beautiful way to start, I think, at the starting at that feeling. So coming up next, I would like to call to the stage, reading another one of Paul's pieces, which I know is a signature piece, Mordener Kill. Please welcome David Cruz.
Hello, everyone. It's really wonderful to share in this space with all of you, to celebrate Paul's life and work, and these poems and this book and his work. It's just truly exquisite. So thank you. Mordener Kill. Moves black in a place which seems sunless, over rock flecked silver white, almost shiny in the dimness. Over dams of leaf and twig, churn and rush of it, dismantling what was just built. You can see the creek, one bend of it at least from the road which leads to the ramp, which leads to the interstate, which you can take so far west, you'll eventually hit ocean. But you can only see one crook of the creek where you stand, like a secret that stays dark, and where it leads, eventually you don't know and don't care. Content to let it mumble in the hollow, which unlike the creek is unnamed, unexplored, unloved. Except for boys like you were once, come to linger in the shadows, walking wet stones, laughing, slipping in, spinning, yarns of graves scooped out of leaf mold. Quiet men in white shirts who dust the world with their trudge, the insatiable hunger of oversalted childhoods crusted on pink tongues' tails, to tell and retell until the telling itself is all you own. The only truth worth telling, the only truth you know. Manifest destiny, memoir, grand guignol.
Ooh, right. Oof. Powerful. Incredible read. Thank you so much, David. Like I said, we will have an opportunity in not too long for everybody who would like to offer some words to celebrate and honor Paul. All right. So coming up next to the stage, of course, we're going to create a trifecta of Pauls. Coming up next to the stage, another acclaimed writer, peer, Paul. Please welcome Paul Rabinowitz to the stage. Everybody.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Paul, and it's an honor. Memorial to Labor Day. I remember best the hours after supper, watching the sea violet, the thinning summer sunlight deepen, disappear. I remember the rhythm of the porch swing, which held father, the roiling chowder pot that mother scoured and rescoured. Poor mother, she seemed to spend all her hours in the kitchen that summer. Neither father's reprimands nor the cajoling of the sea could dissuade her fierce rhythm of more work and more. Daylight gone, she retired. First light of morning, back poor mother was, battling the rhythm of summer with her broom. 1 hour alone, she allowed herself seaside, muddling the tide pools. Father, in all fairness, father would beg her, relax, lighten up, please, we're on vacation. But mother couldn't care less. 1 hour with the sea was enough, she'd snap back. And the hours cooking, cleaning, well, the rhythm of life doesn't stop in Amagansett. The rhythm of work never stops. Anywhere, sometimes father tried shaming her to rest, making light of all her labors. Then for hours she'd harangue him on motherhood and marriage, the stupid wastrel sea. Only once, as I recall, did the sea's stock rise in mother's eyes. The wild rhythm of a nor'easter was raging, and mother eased into a kind of calm. Father looked nervous, all those cold, dark hours, the bruised sky suffused with greenish light. But she, for hours, watched the stormlight nodding, breathing in its rhythms. I remember Father saying, the sea, she's like a mother. I remember her laugh.
Woo. Ah, incredible storytelling. Incredible read.
Right.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. You're all welcome as each performer comes up if you would like to give some love in a brief moment of just praise. Coming up next to the stage. Before I do that, I do want to plug that this book is available on at salmonpoetry.com. It is published by Salmon Poetry Press, and I will be posting that link in the link as our next performer comes to the stage. Someone I want to give special thanks for helping arrange all this and make this possible. Please give it up, y'all, for Beth Shasla.
Thanks, Paul. This is something completely different, beginning with introducing Dorothy Kilgallen and her husband, Richard Coleman, who had a morning radio show broadcast on WOR AM in New York from 1945 to 1963. Breakfast with Dorothy and Dick. Long ago, in seersucker pajamas in a small suburban cape, I soaked in your every word, learned even more critical than meaning, the way each word should be said, which syllables received heavy breath, broad vowels, the meaningful emphasis or pause. You were the ultimate Manhattan sophisticates, dishing out reviews, nightclub news, gossip. Last night's Broadway opening featuring folks every bit as au courant as you, pulling up to the booth in shiny checker cabs, only tendered shinier and more precious if it rained. I sat with bated breath as if I were a backer, as the Telegraph or Journal opined thumbs up or down. Oh, Dorothy, oh, Dick, in your smart black frocks and three-piece suits, ensconced in your neo-Georgian brownstone, served coddled eggs and buttered toast by your genial butler, Julius, you made me believe couples started each morning with, hello, darling, hello, sweetie, made me believe in a city that wore a necklace nightly of tourmaline and pearl, an America with one extended pinky, Cole Porter tunes tinkling in the background, something rose-colored, fizzy in a flute, an America of Americans who parlayed Francais, smoked cigarettes from meerschaum holders, tossed silver fox stoles over right shoulders, an America of the best and brightest smiles that met beneath the Biltmore's gleaming clock, the flesh of a dream that did not include boys who shopped the husky racks at Orbach's, didn't know a saraband from a samba, had never quelled over sweetbreads or snails, the movers and shakers of a set so posh and precious, I would someday come to realize they were just too fucking shishi to be me.
Give it up, please, for Beth. That ending. That ending.
Yeah.
Incredible. Coming up next to the stage, y'all. It's been offering incredible support and commentary in the chat. Make sure you're using the chat if you want to leave support. If you want to leave commentary on the readers, on the words themselves. The chat's there, y'all. So coming up next to the stage, please welcome Mr. Michael Goodman. Oh, you're still on mute. Give me a second.
There we go. Am I all right? Okay. This is called Stars. The famous writer referenced the Ronettes in his work. So after the reading, I stood online to tell him that Ronnie Spector, years ago, had been a neighbor on West End, and how one wet Thanksgiving Eve, heading off to watch the big balloons get blown up for the parade, she'd knocked on the door, coyly smiling, asked to score a cup of Stoli, then recumbent on the couch, held forth nearly until dawn, a star in a blue silk slit skirt, humming with the Beatles, headlining for the Stones. It was a favorite story, one I was eager to retell. When halfway into Spectre, I watched famous writer's baby blues glaze to bacon grease, balloon over his head, wondering if I'd make him late for moonrise or whatever celestial event had been arranged. And it was then that I knew what I always should have known. Some memories, like most dreams, are better kept than told, fade as fast as gemstones plucked from the sea's song, like the night we met, like walking in the rain, like this what oh 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 pop. That's why. And I have another one that I'm supposed to read. I'm gonna read here another anecdotal one. It's called 5-paragraph essay. The house had the sad feel of past glory, chipped paint, broken windows, parquet floors incised with penknives, servant staircase, missing treads, but also 6 bedrooms, an enormous parlor with boarded up hearth, formal dining room with pocket doors, more than enough space to host some of the throng expected in Washington to protest the unending war. 2 groups were assigned to us, one from Harvard, the other SUNY Buffalo. It could have been Andromeda and Mars. To begin with, this the signature of life in 1969, the way they smoked marijuana. The Buffalo contingent grabbed a joint from your hand the second it was lit, then thrust it to confreres, all the while spewing smoke like backfiring pickups. By the time you could mumble, mind passing it here, or don't mind if I do, it was time to find a roach clip to suck the last sputtering life out of the nub. The Harvard folk, in contrast, puffed quickly, then immediately passed underhand to the right, as if half expecting the feds to burst in. And like my fellow Hoya, that year a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford, they never seemed to inhale. And then the way they cursed. The Buffalo gang made sure to use some form of fuck in every sentence uttered, as in fuck this fucking country and the fucked up fucking mess the fuckers have fucked us with. Harvard usage was more sparing and leaned toward the non sequitur, as in, the American people do not yet understand that this is a civil war which the U.S. has no business meddling in, nor do they understand that this unconstitutional military adventurism is eroding resources required for education, transportation, housing, and other absolute essentials. Until we can communicate this clearly, there will be hurt and misunderstanding on both sides of the political divide, and I don't give a fuck what father says. But the most vivid contrast could be seen on the morning of the march. Buffalo emerged surprisingly early, given the late night debauch, all 10 bounding downstairs, adorned in red bandanas, combat boots, and gas masks, skeins of metal chains in hand, determined to confront porcine violence head on. The Harvard men and Radcliffe women, on the other hand, after long showers and numerous cups of black coffee, donned ties and dresses, respectfully. They would skip the march entirely and head instead for the Hill, certain, it seemed, that once crimson opinion was known, all problems foreign and domestic would be solved. I wouldn't say I much liked either group. No one bothered to thank us when they left. No one made a bed or threw out the trash. No one offered a dime for food consumed or dope blown. Yes, they were both rotten as far as I was concerned, self-absorbed, delusional, and breathtakingly impolite. And yet, if truth be told, it was that day on the mall I tasted acrid tear gas the first time, and I must report, for the sake of historical accuracy. That fucker fucking stank.
Incredible. Gotta love it. Gotta love when we get some biting humor in there too. That mother and some good F bombs. Some good F bombs too. I'm never a bum. I'm never above a good that motherfucking fucker. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your read. Each of those pieces bringing an incredible energy. All right. So, our next two scheduled presenters, I'm just gonna do a quick professor roll call type because I'm looking for either Lydia. Is Lydia here? Maybe under a different Zoom name. No. Going once.
Oh,
Okay.
she's there. I think,
Oh, Lydia's here. Where? Okay.
waiting.
Wait. Okay. Hold on. I've got about 70 people in these boxes.
Red top.
Lydia? Okay, got it. It's under iPhone. That's my okay. Wonderful. Beautiful. See, that's how Zoom gets you. Okay. So, without any further interruption or confusion, let me call very, very proud to call next to this Lydia Heineman.
You ready? Yeah. All right, Paul Genega. Dissent and sentiment. The plane makes its descent on the city where I lived once. Flickering interstates, clover leaves, and loops, as if Omaha exploded, had strewn its ruby innards from sea to shining sea. Still, there is the rock egg of the capital, floodlit. There, Washington's white cock. Things recognizable amid the squat, flat-top office buildings, all built since I've been gone. I remember DC, southern, waxy magnolias, ornate columned mansions of mustachioed ambassadors, unbreathable summers, and you, dreamer, drifter, odd jobber. First honest love in a row house long ago. I remember that whole summer beneath your sloping roof, laughing at nothing, drinking too much wine. Yes, we spoke 3 words through August, then firmly shook goodbye. Me back to Nebraska, you to Virginia, I think. Now, here, buckled to my speeding seat, I search despite myself for a row house gable, for the window strobed with candles and moon, though surely raised. Of course I cannot find them. More than count these lights, the beds I've known since you. By landing, the runway is just a blur of blue. Then the wheels touch down firmly, and the dim, dishonest longing for the long gone bursts in flame. picture.
Ooh,
Wow.
Nice to read it.
That was fantastic.
Just
That was wonderful. Thank you. That was wonderful.
Wonderful.
It's a beautiful piece. Mm.
incredible. Okay. And I also didn't expect to get Washington's White Cock in there, but we get that. The imagery, that is Paul Genega imagery, and we live for it. I'm gonna do another teacher roll call, because again, I do not see the name here, but that doesn't mean the name is not here in another form. Priscilla Orr.
Yes, I'm here.
I had a feeling it was you, Sill's phone, but again can't assume. Can't assume. All right. So please, y'all, welcome. Coming up next to the stage, please give it up for Priscilla Orr.
I don't think you can see me. I have an iPad, a computer, and it's my iPhone, and I can't get one of them to completely work. So, I'm reading Autumn Rhythm and Communion. All right. Right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Autumn Rhythm, Jackson Pollock, 1950, Metropolitan Museum of Art. Unbidden, the horse bolts from its stable, freed at last from the apocalyptic. Quartet from odor, cliché red blazer, Aristos in hot pursuit of dream fog. Unbidden, the horse appears riderless, unslow without the clomp of heavy hooves. Comes as autumn wind, comes swirling umber, dirt leaves head aflame like a wild white sun, unbroken, unnamed, and untamable. Communion for Jim. Later on the ground, one man lost it, believing the baggage had burned, wailed his grief in glass-shattering crescendos, flailing against the empty carousel, a Rumpelstiltskin Czardas of impotence and rage. But when the cabin first filled with smoke, everyone on board, as if narcotized by their imminent demise, eased into an odd collective calm. If not now, when? I remember thinking, as the smoke thickened 40 miles from New York. This is it. Decide. Then turned and asked if you'd care to share a stick of spearmint, knowing at that moment, with the heaviest of certitudes, the only one I wished to talk to was you. My love in the live file air. Okay.
Give it up, please, again for Priscilla Orr. That emotional ending. That emotion, like I was getting choked up at the end.
I know. I thought I wouldn't do that. I practiced and practiced, but it's so beautiful. It's such a gorgeous poem.
It's an incredible poem. And you can't rehearse away emotion. You can't rehearse away a genuine feeling in the moment, right? Like you can never you can't rehearse away the visceral. So thank you, Priscilla. Thank you for bringing the emotion to that read. This has been incredible. So great to get to hear Paul in so many different incredible fellow folks' voices. Please welcome, coming up next to the stage, Katja Dreyer. I want to make sure your name is your first home and your first poem. I want to make sure I get Dreyer. Is that correct? You're on mute. Let me unmute. Let me see if we could get you unmuted.
Well, I would say Dreyer, but
okay.
Maybe that sounds different to you.
Oh yeah, that was my second instinct. But again, all right.
Well, very happy to be here. I'm reading the East End Elegy for Antje Catcher. The pink of our teens had long ago popped, consuming passions burned down to nostalgia. Era of firsts behind us, marriages, jobs, failures. We fit at last the patchwork costume called self. In a dimming afternoon, some escape we trudged, the lip of a sand bluff, pausing to gaze out on Cedar Point, Maidstone, Gardener's Bay, Shelter Island. In the amethyst distance, Orient, disease-frizzed plum. Lee paths choked with grapevine, bittersweet, pitch pine, rose. Windward sheer drop to a shell-encrusted beach. Blackbacks, Scotters, plovers, ancient skiff with rusted oarlocks. Splintered starboard gunwale, fisher wind rising for to ferry us away. All this long ago, before the potato fields were blighted, before the hypno-rich arrived to claim the sea as their mirror. But I see us again there, and then see how young we were without knowing it, how happy without a clue. How beautiful that day, that shimmering stretch of sea sand, perched high on the shifting lip of it, the silence sweet and salty, with all the time in the world to say what needed to be said, all the time that never was.
Beautiful.
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 Love that poem.
Yeah.
Some
Too.
of those lines you just want to meditate on. Like I don't even want to move on. I just want to sit here for several minutes. Incredible. Thank you so much, Katja. Try it. Again, your name is your first home. It's your first poem. So always want to honor and respect it. Thank you, Katja, for that reading. It's incredible. Coming up next, we're gonna introduce Tom Mandel. Gotta get you to unmute, Tom. There
Thanks,
we
Paul.
go. Of course.
Can you hear me?
Clear.
After a phone call, after a talk, after the news is known, you pull the sky tight over your head and try to write a history of the sea. Not the events which happened upon movements of armadas, battles fought and lost, fleets ironclad or rigged, tensed for eventful dawns. Which frigate sank which frigate? What schooners set sail to discover technicolor lands, to prove the earth was round as pure greed? Not the course of luggers or xebecs, barkentines, galleas, caravels, or flutes. Not them that peopled the sea, captains and cooks, admirals and boatswains, hirsute pirates with odd teeth, the workers and the worked upon, revelers and reviled, slim men in dhows, unfurling nets in Omani dawns, penurious unfortunates dragoon from the taverns of Stromness or Penzance, people sick from their own stink, packed in the darkest of history's black holes. Nor the saga of the commerce of the sea, maws filled with sugar or cars, cuckoo clocks, oranges, isinglass, cloves, sunflowers, paper, malachite, robes. None of this is what you're after, the busyness or business, hijinks or expectations. None of that interests you. Not at all. No. Because after a phone call, after a talk, after the news is known, what you want is a history of the sea, the blow-by-blow record of each wave, whipped by winds great or small, the story of a droplet lifted skyward, making its way from St. John's to Connemara, a minute-by-minute account of the tides, the calibration of vortexes and races, Corey Vrekhan, Swelky, Merry Men of May, the epic tale of ice melt from Gomuk to Bengal, Galadangong to Shanghai, Lake Itasca to the dead zones of the Gulf, saltwater jazz with sax as sexy riffs, funky musk of brackish ballads, crushed chromium of heat, light, weightless slabs of dream slate, the history of evaporation, legacy of erosion, the exact numeration of brine and all things briny, bathymetrics, 40 leagues from fear, because after a phone call, after a talk, after the news is known, what you want is the barter and the promise, the backdated guarantee, the eternal impossible, the whole of it, the all, even as you know that, remembering that one wave, that one day rising in heavy July, which lobbed a gentle arc and spangled his blonde tousle with an innocence so dewy and beautiful it stung the song of the moment on his parched and salted lips, that brief wave, that one wave in the long and impossible history of love has to be enough, must be, is enough now, and how you smile to recall.
Ooh. Ooh.
That's known as a killer poem.
Yeah, it was killer.
That was a hit. That was a hit of a poem. Oh, okay. Again, need emotional recovery time sometimes. Thank you for that incredible reading, Tom.
Beautifully
Great pleasure.
and brilliantly written.
I'm excited. I'm excited for the talk around to come. Coming up next to the stage, somebody I am proud to and honored to call a colleague, somebody who also works at Bloomfield College, and is under the Paul Genega tree in that community. Please welcome Professor Pamela Hughes.
Thank you. Hi, all. I'm going to read one of Paul's wonderful nature poems. So I'll get right to that. And it's called Spring Egret. Last summer, this egret high-stepped the salt marsh, a white puff of grace, more folly span than bird. Keen eyes keep watch in the body's long curves, like the F-holes of a cello, bending low to the sun, stained flats spear a shad, swallow cry in voice phlegmy, as an old woman in hospice, the augury of tides, this spring's fan of bone arrayed in stony shallows, chill ripples, lapping leached beauty, beginning the slow, slow dissolve.
Ooh.
I can see that egret.
Incredible. No
Beautiful.
regrets for the egret.
No regrets for the egret.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. So I am also doing my teacher hack of stalling as I look to locate the box of the next person. This is such a full room. It's presenting challenges. But these are good problems. Okay, here we go. Coming up next to the stage, y'all, please give some love to our next presenter, performer, Patricia Brody.
Can you hear me?
Perfectly.
I was busy sending out a comment to the chat, so I'll say it since I didn't get a chance to send it. I think I know every poem that I've heard so far, but I was going to say only Paul would be able to say that a bird voice is phlegmy. And I totally. We must all be soulmates since we're Paul mates. I'm going to read Dog, and it has a dedication for Jesse, I'm pretty sure Paul means Jessie Lendenny, who is the salmon publisher. She's my publisher too, so I had a deep feeling. And I know that she lost one of her dogs a few years ago. But we've all lost dogs and cats and loved ones like that four-legged furry dog. The light, my friend, I see you standing in a light so bright and white, it's painful. In the distance, water winks like a dizzy old flirt. But here, on the soft sand of a dune, you seem almost to solidify. Lean-limbed, released, sniffing the wind of eternity. And almost grinning, you hold that pose, proud, totally assumed. Until moved by whatever it is moves you, you sprint down the slope and run, run and run. Run, dark speck, making for the ocean, over the next crest, and nowhere to be found.
There's something about the image of that, nowhere to be found, because we know that they're running towards the hereafter. Beautiful. Again, imagistic, the beauty and the phrasing of only a Paulism in a way only Paul could. And you coined the term Paul mates, that we're all Paul mates. It's funny because this last row of presenters and performers are all like P's for the last 5 folks. So we just gonna keep the P train rolling. Patricia, Pamela got us there. Coming up next, someone also part of the Bloomfield College learning tree under Paul Genega. Please welcome y'all coming up next to the stage, Mr. Patrick Rosal.
Hey everybody. I'm going to read one of Paul's earlier poems, The Courier, which is dedicated to Jan Karski, who Paul met, I believe, at Hopkins. So this is for Jan Karski, the Polish courier sent by the leaders of the Warsaw Ghetto to inform the world of the Holocaust. The Courier. I am carrying the sea in my cupped hands. Not drops of it, not liters, the whole dark, sloshing sea. Claws pinch, nettles sting, teeth rip at my palm lines. It hurts to hold this much, to be so small and human, running as the bloody sun runs. West, carrying the sea in my cupped hands. The faster my legs move, the more I try to get there, the more I fear I spill. Rancid fish and rackweed, broken shell and coral mark my travel like a tide line. Everywhere I've been, I have sown salt. Everywhere now, the rich green earth laid waste, but I do not look behind, not behind and not above, where the white moon nightly is devouring the stars. First in nibbles, then vast mouthfuls, bloating like a leech, whipping storms as cruel as history inside my pressed hands. These poor, dumb beasts, my hands, how much they want to toss it all away, to empty it in trenches, to wall it up for good. How much I want to fold myself in pine boughs, to lie on high ground, humming, to be free free of this thing I've been anointed with so horribly to make it all mad fancy, mere nightmare. It is not. Straight ahead, face forward, I must run. Run as the bloody sun runs west and bring the sea for the whole wide world to hold. The journey is a minute, a millennium, both. But I do get there. I do. I am ushered to a chamber of telephones and chairs, an ordinary room of the 20th century. 3 well-dressed men walk in, mopping brows with well-starched handkerchiefs. I want to beg forgiveness, to explain I'm just the courier, a small man, insignificant, that the news is not the messenger, but my words are lost in wind. The 3 stand stiffly, staring. They smile, they nod, and I let it go. Waves of salt and bone flooding from my hands, drowning all the ordinary rooms of this century and the next. From the sea floor, I start rising through a maelstrom black as ink, past the dead eyes of the living, the live eyes of the dead, till I surface with my hands. 2 smooth and separate shells, knifed open like an oyster, which can never join again.
Ooh. Everyone, please give it up again. Patrick. Yeah, that poem took on dimensions. That was a journey. Okay. Coming up, one of the other co-organizers for this event and someone I have a great amount of respect and gratitude for and toward, and please welcome, coming up next to the stage, y'all, Patty Lee Patricia Lee Stoddard.
Hi. I want to tell you first that Lethe is the name of the river of forgetting in Greek mythology. Lethe. Here, she said, proffering a sliver of brown soap. Remember me when you use this. Under the title, Girl with Bangs, Manhattan Psychiatric Hospital, Wards Island, 1986.
And wow, that was incredible. And the and so now I don't know if you want to join me in this, Patty. I don't know, the next presenter and performer we have coming up is the man of the hour himself, the author of Outtakes and so much more, and the reason we're all gathered here today. So I would like to ask if you have any particular words you want to say. I mean, for me, he is a mentor. I've called him my poetic Yoda countless times. He was a guide. He was a guide in my life and helped me find my way personally, poetically, professionally. He is the reason, part and parcel, the reason I'm a professor. One of those other reasons just read earlier, Patrick Rosal. Folks who helped me find my purpose and my voice. So proud to be in spaces, honoring them and in lineages and legacies that they have helped me carve out. Patty, would you like to say anything as we introduce our next performer?
Well, a real hard decision for me is what I love and who I love more. Do I love Paul's poetry the most, or do I love Paul the most? And I need a few centuries to make that decision. I love I love you, Paul, and I love your poetry. And what an honor to be with all of you poets reading. It's just been great. My experience, I've collaborated with Paul on a lot of things. And I always come away smarter when I've been with Paul and deeper and feeling more. So it's great. It's been wonderful being part of organizing this.
Without further ado, please welcome Paul Genega to the stage.
Be happy.
Well, this is overwhelming, to say the least. Well, let me try two short poems. My voice gives out very quickly, but let me give it a go at it. Wax wings. And suddenly, three in the shadow, as if dreams could sprout wings. Hoodoo hipsters in mitre caps and shades, feasting on a storm of blood-black berry. Then, just as quickly, gone, disappeared, vanished, like boys into men, men into war, war into foul, filthy air. Sort of my intersection of ornithology and Macbeth. Another short one. Safe places. Corners, for example. Corners of kitchens in particular. Or closets behind the line of overcoats and jackets wrapped in plastic. In bed, quilt up to the neck, better even under. Wherever doors are locked, double locked, bolted, windows barred, drapes drawn, walls covered with cloth. All the windows, all the mirrors covered with starched white sheets. So I want to thank, first of all, I want to thank Jesse and Savon Hudson at Salmon for putting together this really very beautiful book.
It is.
Beautiful.
And I want to thank Beth Joslo and Patty Stoddard and Paul Latour for putting this together today. And all of the readers who did just phenomenal job. It was so amazing to hear those words in other voices with the whole, sometimes with a very different emphasis. It's really revelatory for me.
Me too.
And lastly, thanks everybody for coming out today. It means really a lot to me. As I said to Beth and Patty and got this going, my voice will not allow me to do a whole poetry reading anymore. So this was a way of getting people together and celebrating the book and getting it out there a little bit. So again, thanks everybody. And I'll turn it back over to you, Paul.
Yeah, so at this point, I would like to ask everybody to unmute very quickly and just give some love. Give a round of your love to Paul Genega.
Yeah. Love you, Paul.
That was amazing. I think it's now.
Beautiful. Great, great.
Thank you.
Yes.
Wonderful
still here?
celebration.
Yeah, just extraordinary, amazing readings. Oh my God.
Seems like a better way to do a poetry reading. I don't think I'll go back to reading everything.
Good job, Juana.
It
Fabulous job.
Cynthia.
Oh,
Yeah.
it was stunning to hear his poems and all of your voices. Everyone read so profoundly. It just is a real tribute, Paul, to you and the extraordinary range of your work and your brilliance. Really.
Paul, you've done a lot. You've given yourself fully to the art. Proud to know you. I love you, man.
So proud of you, Uncle Paul. Congratulations.
Love you, Paul.
Oh, this is overwhelming, God.
I think it's a good overwhelm for you, Paul.
Yeah.
You're right. It is a good overwhelm.
Terrific time. I'm just, my hair's still standing on end. Like chills, everything. And every poem, Paul, just came out the way when I first read your first poem that I ever read, and the same thing happened, and it happened today. And it doesn't happen that often with poetry. It happens with Emily Dickinson, maybe. It doesn't happen that
Paul and
I think each poem took on like a different dimension, and I think there's really no way of going back now. Like this is the way I'm going to prefer for readings and book launches to be done. Like this is going to be like just have an experience. Let me curate. Let me have I think
it'll be great to have this on where people can go back to it and listen again.
Definitely.
And that's a great thing. Great gift that we have in our lives, the ability to hold on to stuff like that.
Paul, where are you going to?
Well, I can't. It's the freaking.
Paul, where are you going to post the video?
Oh, this is going to be uploaded to the 3 Mile Harbor Press YouTube.
Excellent.
We'll get that uploaded immediately as soon as Zoom does what they do. However, I wanted to make this space not necessarily to have like a Q&A or talk back, because again, we don't want to overwhelm Paul as far as the talking, but just if anybody wants to speak specifically about how the pieces and outtakes have impacted them. Paul, we're here, we're still gathered. We're not pushing anybody.
Hi, Marty.
What did I do?
Oh, from Cynthia?
Anybody out the room, but I'm probably gonna mute all, and then as folks want to come forward, if they want to say a word, they can just either raise a hand or just unmute, and I'll try and do it real orderly like a professor. All right. So yeah, raising hands actually forms a queue. That's one of my favorite features on Zoom. And then y'all could just so let's get Michael. I saw the old fashioned raise the hand. Michael, yeah.
Here you go. Am I on? Can you hear me? Just Paul. I've known Paul since I was a little kid. He's a friend of the family's, and we spent many holidays together, every holiday together. And I read so many of these poems when I was young. And it's just been so great hearing these poems in everybody's voices. And I love this book. I've read this book from cover to cover many times just in the last couple of months. And I'm happy to have all of his work in one great volume. I have so many small volumes from over the years, and Paul, you've taught me so much as a human being and as an artist, and that's just about, the highest compliment I could give anybody. So thank you, and I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.
Mm.
Thank you, Michael.
Here, here.
Paul Rabinowitz.
Thank you, Paul. I have two quick stories that I want to relay. First of all, the Courier, and Patrick, just an amazing reading. I teach 40 workshops a month in creative writing, poetry, but my most profound class are a group of Holocaust survivors. I teach in Whippany, New Jersey. And there's only, we started the class 15 years ago with 25, and there's only 7 remaining. But each year we cycle back, and I use the Courier to start off the class. They write. Many of them started writing at 85, 90 years old. We have 2 people in the class that are 104. And I come back to that piece over and over because there's something about holding the sea in your hand, and what is our responsibilities as humans to tell stories. And I think that Paul Genega, for me, using that work comes back over and over and over and over again, that we do have responsibility to tell stories, to bring the word out when things are not okay. And that piece resonates with my group of survivors, Holocaust survivors. And I want to thank Paul for that, and also for Patrick for an amazing reading, because that piece I wrote in the chat is, I think, one of the most important pieces of our generation, that poem. And the other thing I wanted to say very quickly, and Paul, I'm not sure if you can allow me to share screen, if that's possible.
Sure, of course. Yeah. Just give me one.
So 10 years ago, so I'm the founder of an organization called Arts by the People. We're in New Jersey, and many of you on the screen have been through projects and programs and events with us. But we did an event about 10 years ago. It was an experimental event, and we invited Paul Genega, and it would be a jazz fusion band who would simply be listening to work of 3 poets. And they would listen to the poem. They don't know the poem. They've only heard it there for the first time. And then after the poem was read, they would then begin an improvisational piece that would last for about 20 minutes, solely based on how each one of the 5 musicians interpreted the poem. And these musicians were in their early 20s. And Paul got up there and read one of his works. I can't remember the name of it. I know what the poem is about. It was about doing a face surgery on, Paul would be able to tell us the name of the poem. But those 22, 23, 24-year-old musicians to this day still talk to me about Mr. Genega, they call him, and how they were so overwhelmed by this man and this poem, and it moved them to such a profound way artistically. And the recording that they did for that, solely based on the listening, was something they still talk about today. And the reason I bring it up is, it's, as artists, we just pass on from one generation to the next. And Paul made a profound impact on those 5 musicians. So I just want to show you a photo, if that's okay, if I can just do this real quick. I have it in my archives, and it's just a beautiful piece that just give me half a second. I made a little slideshow for us. So just give me 1 second. Yeah, there we go. So this is Paul at one of our places. One of the young musicians is the keyboardist, and he's just listening to Paul, and Paul is giving an outstanding reading. I mean, just outstanding. And they were just listening and listening. And then right after Paul finished, the drums came in, and then the saxophone, and then the bass, and they went and explored his poem musically in something that was just truly a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I love this picture because this is the lead guitarist who sort of just closed his eyes for 20 minutes and just imagined Paul's words. And it was a beautiful, beautiful thing. So every time I think of Paul, of course, I think of that.
Thank you for that share, Paul. And I think Patrick put in the chat, it's Self-Made Man is the title of the poem. I believe that's the title. Yeah. All right. Incredible. We're gonna keep it on moving. And next up, Michael Howley, jump in.
I'd just like to say, to keep it on the book here, this is such a beautiful book. My goodness, it was worth waiting for. It's really hopeful. And the poem that really brought somebody to life for me here was the East End Elegy for Anche, who, we all know that she founded 3 Mile Harbor Press. And Katya, you read it so beautifully. And, you included all her birds there, the blackbacks, the scoters, the plovers. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I know how important it is to honor Ancha too, amongst all this. So just love and reverence there too for Paul carrying on the work, the incredible work of 3 Mile Harbor Press. David, I'll add you to the queue. Sorry, I'm seeing in the chat at the same time. David, I'll add you to the queue mentally. All right, so coming up next to the stage, Roberta Freeman.
Thank you. Paul, I've only known for a few years, and Paul, I just want to say that for me, your poetry reflects your talent, your insight, your powerful yet at times very gentle way for your readers to look at and understand themselves in their world. My husband Rich is here, and I don't know if he's ever going to give me back Outtakes to read, so we'll just have to order another one. He's taken. But Paul, I'm going to take you up on your invitation to mention the poems that have been so touching, Paul. In Outtakes, Quarantine Haiku, for me, is haunting and is always with an insightful take on life. I've read it so many times, and it reflects in such a succinct way the life and the world and the way my world has been and the way I've been living it with for the past 4 years with COVID. The poem Pearl Become Polly is just an incredible tribute to these women who came to our shores blazing with inner hope and searching for some form of inner nourishment. And of course, the courier that Patrick read so powerfully earlier is as relevant today and for future generations, Paul, of this hero during the Holocaust and the heroes we look for today. And lastly, a very amazing piece in Migration. It always touches me, especially when I think of my beloved brother Jeffrey, who left too soon. And I keep my book of remembrance tucked into the pages of Mortimer Kill, where I first read it. So my dear, wonderful Paul, thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you and I appreciate you. And thank you for inviting me to join this incredible group of artists.
It's great. Patrick, let's move it over to Patrick. Thank you so much, Roberta.
Hey, Paul, I just wanted to congratulate you on this incredible book. It's been amazing to kind of, when I opened it up and started reading the new poems. And first of all, I just want to say, as a book, to reorder your selected, it just is like, that's so good, to like put all the stuff together, and it's not chronological. It's like your dreams get repieced back together in a way that makes more sense later on. Like I just love that you did that, first of all. Um, but man, you know, I of- but a lot of folks might not know. I just wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. In so many ways, I learned how to teach, I learned how to listen, I learned how to write, I learned how to read under your guidance. And I'm so, so grateful to you for that. When I arrived at Bloomfield College, there was this little bit of a dream in me that I was still going to be a musician and a composer. And for various reasons that got derailed. Um, but the thing that this book reminds me of is the sophistication of your music as a poet. Because you know, when I went to grad school, I had read no other full collections of poetry except for Kings and Beggars and Striking Water. And so that was the foundation for me to read every other book of contemporary poetry as I caught up to my peers. And I think I was not a great reader as such of poetry or literature, but because I was a musician and a composer when you and I met, I had the ear to hear what you were doing. And that sound, even to this day, 3 decades later, still reverberates in my ear and in my work. And it's been the compass that has been my guide. There's a million other things that I could say um, about this book, about your work, about you as a person in my life, but I just want to congratulate you. I'm so glad for this book to be in the world. I celebrate you. It's such an honor for me to be a part of all of this. I love you so much, and thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful moment. Yeah. Let me pivot now to Marty LeBear, another a Bloomfield College contemporary of Paul's.
I think I'm unmuted. You can hear?
Perfectly clear.
Okay. Okay. Claudia's here. We're over by the Brooklyn Bridge where there's a rock concert that's been competing. And so I've kept trying to readjust everything, but that's the way it is. And it made me think of other readings at the Bowery and one at Bloomfield where we did something like today. I think Steve Golan read the first poem and I read one and maybe Felice. It blurs over decades, but Paul was there and we had told him we were in the art gallery going to read his poems so he would hear them in other voices. And he was standing in the back. And then there was a point where he came in and he came in roaring. It was just so powerful and overwhelming in the best way. And the reading went on, and it was a very good party. And it's nice to see how, with time and place and pandemics, and we can still do that. And hearing these poems today in these many voices, poems we know, and hearing them again in different voices. And then hearing Paul again. Of course, we've heard you read stronger, but the poems have never been stronger. That they're just so wonderful. And that's the voice. And I'm going to start crying, so never mind. It was wonderful, Paul. Mwah. Everybody.
Yeah, that was incredible. And I want to give it up. I want to extend my thanks as I pass it off to the next David, who is also one of our readers today. So I just want to thank everybody who agreed to and showed up to be a reader today, because I think it was really a fantastic experience to be a part of and help facilitate. David, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Paul. I'm getting over a pretty rough cold, so I really hope I can get some of these thoughts out without taking a break to cough a little. But I wanted to share some thoughts. Paul, this is such a lovely event. And I got to tell you, the first time I heard about Paul Genega was almost 15 years ago. And interestingly enough, at my MFA residency, Patrick Rosal got up on our first night of a symposium, and he read the Courier to us. And it was as dramatic and beautiful as what he read today. And then he talked afterwards about what that poem meant to him and what Paul, as a poet and a teacher, meant to him. And I was so moved that I went back home that night and I went online and I bought Striking Water and I bought Kings and Beggars, and I had to find out who this Paul Genega was. Then a few years later, I was editing with the Stillwater Review. I was brought into that project by one of my dear mentors, Priscilla Orr. Hi, Sil. I cried when I heard your voice today. Anyway, while we were at Stillwater Review editing, all of a sudden a submission comes in of poems by none other than Paul Genega, the living legend. And I found out through Sil that she and Paul are like dear, dear friends, and they've known each other for the longest time. And they have been trading work toward, with one another. And Sil went on to say some of the most beautiful things about Paul, what kind of person he was, how, what he meant to her. And I was like, oh my goodness, who is this Paul Genega? Everyone is just so moved by his presence and who he is as a person. So for a few years at Stillwater Review, I had the chance to publish some of Paul's poems, and I got to know him. And we developed a relationship, and pretty soon he started offering me some incredible mentorship with my own poems. And I have to tell you all, if you ask Paul Genega to read your work, he will read your work. He is a triple Gemini. I don't know if you people know this. Some of you probably do. Sun, moon, and rising. And he's going to come back to you with an incredible honesty, a stark honesty that might be even difficult to hear sometimes. But he does it because he cares about poems, and he cares about art, and he cares about all those big ideas that are so much bigger than all of us. And what I think is so beautiful is that Paul also couples that honesty with a tenderness, a deep and profound tenderness that's so authentic and so deeply human that you can't help but be moved by his wisdom and what he's trying to share with you. And he's taught me so much over these years about, what it means to be a poet and a thinker and an artist and a human being. And I'm moved by it all. With my last work, Incantation, Paul wrote an afterword for that collection of poems. And it's one of the most beautiful things anyone's ever written about my work. And so I just wanted to share some of those thoughts. Paul, you are a marvel. And all these people here today and all the lives that I can only imagine that you've touched. I'm in awe I'm so grateful to know you and to share in your wisdom. And thank you for letting me be in the space to share with you today and with all of you lovely individuals as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else wanted to say, Patricia? Yeah. Gotta unmute. We gotta unmute you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to be quick. I'm not in the Bloomfield group, and I just wanted to say I only met Paul with total gratitude to Patty Stoddard. That's how I met Paul, through Patty at a poetry event. And I think that was 2008 or 9, so a mere, what, 15 something years ago. And so I feel like a newcomer and a little bit of an outlier here. So, but to echo what everybody's, first of all, Paul, I can't live without you. I've told you that a number of times. And whenever I can't find him on the email, I frantically, first of all, I lost communication with Patty for quite a few years. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I would travel upstate to find Paul. He was just in one of his absences. And I just have to know he's okay and he's there. Right after we met, I was in the process of trying to get a first manuscript published, and I met Jesse Lendenny at a conference. And the next thing, I asked Paul, who didn't know me except from one meeting, if he would read my manuscript, and he did. And it helped me get that first collection out. And we both did the same thing with these recent collections. I feel he's a part of my family. And we met once at AWP in 2013 at the conference in Boston. Turns out Jim, Paul's beautiful husband, was my father's student in psychoanalysis about probably 45, 50 years ago. I don't know. But so we became family anyway. My daughter loves Paul's poems. I echo what all of you have said today. I think they were, reborn today, Paul. The poems were reborn and in a way, not recreated, but created anew today. And I have in my book, I'm not going to read it though, I wrote about coming out of the pandemic, and then Paul wrote we wrote off each other a little bit. And in the poem that I was talking about, weeping and cherry blossoms, and he ends his with, on lawns where lovers unpack wicker and picnic and sneeze in the sex-heavy air. And it was so funny to have that sneeze in there. But there's a lot of sneezes and coughs and phlegm and tears. And I'm just thank you. I'm so glad to meet you all today and be with you. And Paul, my God, I just don't ever leave me.
If there's one thing Genega is gonna do is be okay. So okay, let me jump in. Sorry, Lydia. Yeah, did you want to go next? Okay, let me get you to unmute.
Okay. Thank you. It's just such a pleasure and an honor to be here with all of you and to listen to your praise of Paul and his work and his generosity, which I've known, I think, since about 1979. And I must say, there was never a poet more willing to look at another poet's work than Paul, and to grace them with his own ideas about the work, to respond to it openly with an open heart, as well as a feeling of correctness and tact in looking at where the poem potentially can go, knowing the poet, which he made it his business to do. So I've always been very grateful for for his company and to know him. And I go back a long time to friendship with Anja Katcher. So it was a beautiful thing to see Katja read the East End Elegy. And yeah, I'm really so grateful and happy to be here. Thank you. Love you, Paul.
Thank you.
All right. So if does anybody else have a word they want to say? All right, gotcha. Jump in.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for inviting me. Thanks for being there, Paul. I mean, we only met recently, but I think there's no time like you write, the time that never was. Thanks a lot. It's wonderful to hear everybody. It's wonderful to hear the poems. I'm so grateful that I can reconnect with Antje through you and through your long friendship, and that you took on the job to continue with the 3 Mile Harbor Press. And it's so great to meet all these students of yours, the former students, and this whole community, which is funny. Yeah, this is just very beautiful and very rich. And it mirrors over to this part of the world in all the mess that the world is in. That's very grateful for this event. I love you, Paul. Thanks a lot for being there. And thanks to everybody there.
Thank you for the reading today. Also, just a beautiful event. Yeah, I just wanted to sum up and say Paul Genega was my advisor as an undergrad at Bloomfield. Does somebody want to jump in? Somebody have something to say? Paul was my advisor at Bloomfield and came at, and just exactly as David was saying, like when Paul gives you feedback on your work, it will be beautifully, brutally honest. Like, and I mean that beautifully because it's necessary and it's what the poem calls for and what the poem needs. And he just has like a bluntness, but also a care, you know, like you were saying, a tenderness also. And I really don't know if I ever would have, without taking his literary magazine course, I don't know if I ever would have discovered I wanted to be a professor. I wanted to be, you know, an editor and help other students and folks get their voice out there in the world. So thank you for continuing to also demonstrate that we should continue putting our voice out in the world. We should never backseat our dreams and never deprioritize or make even, you know, the labors of our love be the only labor of our love. And for always being a model of don't forget that your voice also holds weight in this canon. And thank you always for allowing me to publish a poem of his in a few literary magazines. And as long as I live, Paul, I'm gonna be indebted to you. So thank you, Genega. Like genuinely, I don't know if I'd be who I am today without you. Would anybody else like to say a word? Even off the record. And it was, yeah, Genega.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Very simply, I just love this event. And I love poetry. And I love all of you. That's it.
We love you, Paul.
Brevity being the soul of wit. That's exactly what we needed to close out this event today. Yeah, if you could say less and say it best, why not? Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Beth. Thank you, Patty, for also helping co-organize this event. It would not have run so smoothly and beautifully without you. Thank you, everybody who held the space today, all our performers, presenters, and all our attendees. Thank all of you for loving Paul in the way you do, and thank you, Genega, for the gift of your words. Love you all. Look for the recording, and please go check out the book if you don't already have a copy. And if you don't have a second copy, just like Roberta said, you might need a second copy if somebody steals your first. Please go check it out on Salmon Poetry.
Yes.